Alright, hello again everybody. So today we are going to take a look at the American Revolution and African Americans and see what happens in today's lesson. So our objectives and standards are to understand the causes and effects of the American Revolution and to evaluate the role of African Americans in the American Revolution. And take a moment there to read the standards if you would please. And our desired result. What role did African Americans play in the American Revolution? So, independence for all. So, Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence in 1776, and it stated that all people were equal and had rights. Now, Thomas Jefferson's original draft actually included another reason for Americans to rebel against the British, which was slavery, which was put in place by the king. His vocal opposition to slavery actually angered many Southerners, and many of them refused to sign the Declaration of Independence if it mentioned slavery, so the Declaration of Independence never included slavery in its final draft. And this is a picture of Thomas Jefferson here, standing up, and that's John Adams and Benjamin Franklin. They were also on the committee to help with the Declaration of Independence, so that's them, the three of them reviewing it there. So opposition to slavery grows. Some colonists began to protest against slavery as well as being controlled by the British. Now, in some views, it made no sense to fight for their own freedom while denying it to slaves. Thomas Paine, top picture here, and Benjamin Franklin, both actually spoke out against slavery as well. So joining the fight. When fighting broke out, African Americans, many of them did volunteer for the conflict. Now, there were those in the South who feared armed slaves, while others in the North and elsewhere argued for their freedom, if slaves fought against the British. By 1775, Virginia allowed free African Americans to enlist in the military. And General George Washington also accepted African Americans with prior military experience. In 1777, Congress officially authorized recruitment of slaves and free African Americans, and several other states also began authorization of African Americans for recruitment as well. So African American soldiers. There were some African Americans who were sent to fight in their master's place sometimes. Sometimes they didn't want to go fight, but if the person, it might have been an elderly person or somebody who couldn't fight, they would send a slave to go fight in their place. Free African Americans were also hired to fight in someone else's place. Slaves volunteered to fight, since many states offered freedom in return for service. And there are many examples of African Americans distinguishing themselves, including Peter Salem, up here, and James Armistead, while in service during the Revolutionary War. The British and African American soldiers. So African Americans were also recruited by the British as well. Lord Dinsmore, who was a British governor, promised freedom to slaves who ran away and reached British forces. Now, many slaves did take advantage of this opportunity, fleeing from farms and plantations, and slaves also served as soldiers in the British military as well. Others supported the British by working as nurses, cooks, or general laborers. So, following the war, the American Revolutionary War will last about 8 years, but resulted in the formation of the United States. However, freedom from the British did not mean freedom for all, and many called for the end of slavery. However, Southerners were determined to keep slavery in place, and we'll talk more about that in the next lesson when we talk about the formation of the government and things like that. Alright, so our closure for today. What role did African Americans play in the American Revolution? Think about some of the reasons they got involved. Maybe it was for freedom. Maybe they were kind of forced to go fight. Why they joined the British side. Why they joined the American side. Things like that. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns. And if so, please let me know. Try your best on the questions that follow as well. Other than that, I hope you all have a great rest of your day or night. And I will hopefully talk to you all soon.